and what are the different combustion, pre-combustion, what are the products, what are the reactants which are going to react, and at the end of post-combustion, what are the products, what are their chemical composition, the kind of things we are going to cover today. So let's start our title today. It's the introduction to the combustion and combustors. The combustor part I'm not going to cover because combustor is talking about geometry of the combustion chamber. So three different kind of pattern you have seen, can annular or annular kind of combustion chambers that we are not going to cover here. We'll be focusing more on the combustion and combustion technology for today's discussion. So objectives today is combustion mechanism we'll see, and we'll see the fuels used and corresponding parameters, stability curve, factors affecting the combustion chamber design and performance. So these 4 points we are going to cover today. What is the combustion? It is a very general definition of combustion. So combustion is a phenomena in which chemical energy of fuel gets converted into the heat energy, then that high temperature thermal energy converts into the mechanical energy by expanding that high temperature gases through a turbo machine. A turbo machine is basically a turbine. So this is the general definition, irrespective of the chemistry involved. So combustion is the phenomena in which chemical energy of the fuel gets converted into the heat energy, which later converts into the mechanical work by the turbine. So for combustion system implies the need of high combustion efficiency. That is one of the requirement of the combustion. Combustion should carry out effectively with the maximum possible energy conversion. So highest possible combustion efficiency should be there, and low pressure loss. Usually in ideal condition, we consider combustion should carry out approximately at constant pressure, but in reality it will not be. Some pressure losses will be involved, but that pressure losses should be limited within the 1 to 3% of the total pressure. So typical values assumed to for cycle calculation when we are making the performance calculation, the combustion efficiency should be in the range of, very narrow range is there, 98 to 99%, with 2 to 8% of the total pressure loss may occur between this range, 2 to 8%. Total pressure loss may occur in the real scenario. So what is the basically combustion technology? Combustion involves two things. One is the fuel, another is oxidizer. So fuel will have molecules, small molecules. Those molecules will react with the oxidizer. They will get divided into small fine particles, and a final chemical reaction will take place. Then we will generate the heat with the help of some external source like a spark plug or any other flame things will be used. Electric combustion or magnetic combustion can be used to start the ignition. So basically it involves the chemistry. Chemistry means reaction rates, equilibrium effect, and fuel oxidizer chemistry. How effectively the mixes. So higher the mixing, higher will be the combustion efficiency. So how mixing will take place with the help of a swirler or with the help of a stirrer, we will stabilize the flame. So that is nothing but here gas dynamics will come into the picture. So gas dynamics is nothing but diffusion, turbulence, and stirred reaction will take place the moment your fuel is getting in contact with the oxidizer, that is air present. Then finally those liquid jet will convert into the small fine particles with the help of turbulency created by the swirler or soil injector, we used to say. At the end your combustion will start, and then complete the calorific value of the fuel and the chemistry of the fuel will convert into the heat. Then is the part of thermodynamics starts. So energy heat release will happen, and flame temperature will be generated. So the prerequisite for carrying out the combustion is your fuel with the higher calorific value that is expected. Then it will be subjected to an required sufficient oxidizer. Then a final chemical reaction will take place between oxidizer and fuel. Then that liquid jet of fuel will convert into the small fine particles with the help of stirrer reaction or turbulence created by the swirler. finally combustion will happen. At the end of this process, heat will get released from the mixture of this fuel and oxidizer. So energy heat release. So in ideal condition, we need maximum possible energy release rate. That means we should have highest possible combustion efficiency in order to get a complete combustion from the given mass of the fuel. So this is the chemical aspect of the combustion technology. So we can say any complete combustion process has a chemical aspect and physical aspect. So chemical aspects are concerned with the heat release rate, in how fast your reaction takes place, and physical aspects are concerned with the particle size, injection, mixing, and evaporation. So these are the parameters which comes under the physical aspect, and chemical aspect covers only how fast your reaction takes place. To understand these aspects completely, one has to refer various theories. There are various theories proposed for understanding the combustion phenomena. First was the carbon preferential warning, which states that carbon in the hydrocarbon fuel burns before the hydrogen. That is the first theory, but it was further denied by another fellow who gave a second theory, which is hydrogen preferential warning, which states that hydrogen in the hydrocarbon fuel burns before the carbon. Both of these theories were not correct, because carbon itself cannot burn first. Similarly, hydrogen itself, single element, will not burn first. So there must be some chemical reaction between these constituents of the fuel. So next theory came hydroxylation. So which states that there is an initial uniting of the oxygen with the hydrocarbon. First, there will be some mixing of oxygen with the hydrocarbon to form one third component, that is called hydroxylated compound. Through chain reaction of the molecules and atoms or radicals, hydroxylated compound burns into the carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, and hydroxide. Uh, so basically this theory was somewhat real and acceptable. So now most of the researchers actually recommend this theory, and the actual reality, a lot of practical exposure has been done, which shows that there is certain chemistry involved between these two constituents of the fuels. So that's why the third theory is widely acceptable compared to the earlier two theories. So, what is the complete reaction or combustion reaction? So, any hydrocarbon will have a form of something called CnHm. They will have carbon and hydrogen bonding, which will be arranged in something form of CnHm. So, when CnHm is getting exposed to the oxidizer, basically oxygen, when it's a pure oxygen case, when there will be only oxygen, if we are exposing the same fuel to the air will have two component, nitrogen and oxygen. So nitrogen will have 79% contribution in the air. So 79 and something 21 is oxygen in the case of air. So this chemical equation has been written in the environment where oxygen only is the oxidizer which is getting exposed to the fuel. So CnHm plus N plus M by 4 O2 is equal to NCO2 plus M by 2 H2O. So this is the equation derived from the lot of practical done at that time. They finally derived this expression for the complete combustion. This equation shows the complete combustion of the fuel. So complete combustion means there is no unburned carbon and oxygen present. So carbon monoxide is not present in the post combustion product. This is the pre combustion product, fuel and oxidizer. So here, as I said, this first equation is for oxygen alone. So in case of air, this component will have one more extra element, that is nitrogen. So as air consists of mixture of gases on mole basis, 20.9% is oxygen and 79.1% nitrogen. So the same equation can be further written in terms of this equation, which is CnHm N plus M by 4. This is common to both, and this component is air. So air is having 1 mole of oxygen and 3.78 mole of nitrogen approximately, because 79% contribution is from nitrogen. 79.1 divided by 20.9 will give us 3.78 N2. So instead of O2, we can write O2 plus 3.78 N2, which becomes NCO2 M by 2 H2O plus 3.78 times of this same bracket term N2. So this is the equation which represents the complete combustion of unit quantity of fuel. So here again you can see there is no carbon monoxide, so we can say the reaction is complete and combustion is complete. We can say it's a complete combustion. So this is the standard equation that you will use for any kind of fuel, based on hydrocarbon. Any sort of form can be methane or ethylene or octane, whatever fuel composition comes in. You can apply this chemical equation and you can get the final combustion product, and you can analyze this. So fuel used at a glance, if we look at the fuels used in the aircraft engines, primary fuel is gasoline, that is being used. Apart from gasoline, we can use kerosene, diesel. So diesel we are not using the aircraft. So petrol, grade 1 category we are using in the aircraft. So this is basically generally fuel used in the combustion. So combustion may involve land-based application or general purpose combustion or aircraft application. So this is a put together different kind of fuels available in the combustion: gasoline, kerosene, petrol, diesel, methane, natural gas, liquid petroleum gas, LPG, alcohol, methanol, hydrogen, and dual fuels. So these are the various category of fuels that can be used for carrying out the combustion. So next parameter is equivalence ratio. As I said that to start a combustion, we need two component, fuel and oxidizer. So we have to mix that fuel and oxidizer in a particular ratio to get the complete combustion. So that will be defined by the equivalence ratio. So equivalence ratio or relative fuel air ratio is given by the fuel air ratio actual, that is MF by MA. This is actual fuel air ratio divided by fuel by air ratio stoichiometric. Stoichiometric represent the complete combustion. That means at this air fuel ratio, my fuel will give me the complete combustion, or it will release the maximum possible heat release from its content. So stoichiometric air fuel ratio is given by lambda term, which is nothing but air fuel ratio. Here it was the fuel by air ratio. Keep in mind, equivalence ratio is fuel by air ratio actual divided by fuel by air ratio of stoichiometric. But stoichiometric ratio, when somebody asks you, that is air by fuel actual divided by air by fuel stoichiometric. So we can say stoichiometric ratio is inversely proportional to the equivalence ratio, that is 1/5. So from this equation we can say if equivalence ratio is less than 1, right, in that case it will be a lean mixture. So lean mixture means fuel quantity will be less and air quantity will be more. So in this case also combustion will not be stable. Stable combustion cannot be achieved. Similarly, if equivalent ratio is greater than 1, that means this term is becoming greater than 1. So fuel is more and oxidizer is less. In that case also combustion will not be stable. So both of these two conditions are not recommended. So there is a third condition in between. If equivalence ratio is equal to 1, when we can say it is appropriately same combination. This is called a stoichiometric mixture, or you can say there is a air fuel ratio at which you will get the complete combustion. So equivalence ratio should be very close to the 1. That is expected, is equal to 1. Then if we look at the various other theories that says stoichiometric air fuel ratio, it is something called its amount of air required to carry out the complete combustion for a unit quantity of fuel. That is known as stoichiometric air fuel ratio. What is complete combustion? Complete combustion is the combustion in which a combustion product should have only water, carbon dioxide, and there should not be any CO component. This carbon monoxide component should not be present. Such kind of combustion is known as complete combustion. Then enthalpy will be defined. What is enthalpy of reaction? It is amount of heat transfer in a particular reaction when reactants and products are at the same temperature. That means oxidizer and fuel with that product, and finally CO2 and H2O, what combustion pre and post combustion product should be at the same temperature and pressure remains constant. And what is the enthalpy of formation? It is simply the enthalpy of reaction for the formation of unit of compound from its most stable elements at standard condition 25 degrees C and 1 atmosphere. So enthalpy of formation of elements at standard condition is taken at 0. So these are the two enthalpies. Then next important definition is adiabatic flame temperature. So it is the temperature of the products if no heat is transferred from the combustion system and all the energy made available is used to increase the temperature of the product. That means nothing is going out of the combustion chamber. So all the heat generated is used to increase the temperature of the combustion products. So this is the maximum possible temperature of the products and can be achieved at the stoichiometric air-fuel ratio. Then heating value, this is very important for the fuel. So heating value, amount of heat released during complete combustion of unit quantity of fuel is known as heating value. Then heating value is of two kind: higher heating value, the amount of heat released during complete combustion of unit quantity of fuel when the water form during combustion present in the form of liquid only. So in combustion product that we are getting, that will carry some water that will be in the liquid form. If water is present in the case in the form of vapor at the end, that means water still have some energy content. So the value of heating, the heat release that we are getting will be lesser than the value of heat release at the time when water is in a liquid form. So lower heating value is the amount of heat released during complete combustion of unit quantity of fuel if water form in the product of combustion is in the vapor form. Then when we look at the stability curve, the stability curve is drawn between, if we look at the ordinate, air fuel ratio versus mass flow rate. So if we draw that, we can get a stability curve which will give us an idea what is the zone in which we'll have a stable combustion. So already we have discussed when equivalence ratio is greater than 1, that is not recommended. Equivalence ratio less than 1 is also not recommended. When equivalence ratio is equal to 1, that is 100% zone air fuel ratio, 100%, that zone will be a stable zone. So look at this curve where these zones are given. This is the weak limit when lean mixture, and this is the rich mixture zone when fuel is more, right? And here fuel is quantity is less, and as 100% here this is a stable zone. So if we are operating somewhere between this limit nearby 100, this side or this side, will have a stable combustion. If we are going beyond that, it will be unstable combustion. So if we are going for weaker side, flame will not be stabilized. And if you are going for rich side, pre-combustion means a pre-ignition may occur, right? Combustion may start before you are designing. So these both the limits, weak and rich, are not recommended in the combustion chamber. We need to conduct the combustion at somewhere nearby 100, 100 plus 10 or 100 minus 10 is acceptable. If you are going below that, the combustion will not be stable. So when combustion is not stable, it will create some vibration in the combustion chamber, which is undesirable as per the structural point of view. So for sufficiently fast combustion, it is necessary to maintain an optimum fuel air ratio. Rich mixture we already said, where it is rich, insufficient air, so sufficient amount of air will not be there. So when that will cause cracking of fuel and combustion will take place in some sort of blast. So combustion will not be smooth. So another is on a lean mixture where poor automation and poor mixing will occur, that will lead to failure of combustion. So there is a fixed range of air fuel ratio. If you are operating nearby that, you will have a stable combustion. These limits of air fuel ratio between rich and lean mixture somewhere lie in between that. So operation outside this range results in unstable combustion, so which causes vibrations and engine failure. So this gives rise of stability curve, which is given here. So factors affecting the combustion chamber design, if roughly we'll see, the first is the temperature level of the gases after combustion must comparatively low. Because why? Because after the combustion we have to utilize it for generating the mechanical work. For that we need a turbo machine, and turbo machine will have a blades. And for manufacturing of the blade, the materials that we are using are not enough. Till now, whatever material we are using can withstand maximum 1200 to 1400 degrees Celsius temperature. So we cannot cross that limit. So the temperature of the gases which are leaving the combustion should come in that range below 1600 degree Kelvin, in order to avoid any kind of unnecessary loading, thermal loading on the turbo machine blades. That is a one factor. Second factor, at the exit of the combustion chamber, the temperature distribution must be of non-form. That means we should know what is the temperature behavior at the end. So if a high turbine performance is to be realized, then blades are not suffer from any kind of local overheating. Combustion must be maintained. This is very important part. Combustion must be maintained at certain velocity. So velocity should be lying between 30 to 60 meter per second in order to obtain a stable operation. So for that, air-fuel ratio is also given. So air-fuel ratio for full load to idling conditions are given 60 is to 1 to 120 is to 1 for simple gas turbine, and 100 is to 1 to 120 is to 1 if a heat exchanger is employed in the combustion in the jet engine. So these are the range of air-fuel ratio used, and these are the air-fuel velocity in the combustion chamber to be maintained between 30 to 60 meter per second. The formation of carbon deposit must be avoided. This is one of the required, important parameter in the aviation. The formation of carbon deposit must be avoided, particularly in aircraft gas turbines. Combustion must be stable over wide range of combustion chamber pressure, because engine would be subject to different kind of operating pressure. As the aircraft used to fly at higher altitude, because of the variation in properties, the combustion performance should not vary. That is also one of the important parameters. Finally, the pollutant like nitrogen oxide and carbon monoxide and hydrocarbons should be limited. That is also regarding the environmental pollution side, this point is very important. So factor affecting combustion chamber performance, first is the pressure loss. There should be minimal pressure loss involved in the combustion chamber. So combustion has to be carried out approximately at constant pressure. So pressure loss, this should be minimized. So pressure loss should be in between 2 to 8% of the total static pressure. That is recommended. If something is going beyond that, then design of combustion chamber should be modified. So total two pressure losses are here, K1 and K2. One is pressure loss due to hot gases. Second one is pressure loss due to cold gases. Then combustion intensity, right? That will be very heat release rate should be high in order to get highest possible temperature in the combustion chamber. That is one of second important parameter. So combustion intensity is given by the heat release rate divided by the combustion volume into pressure. Then combustion efficiency, as we say, we always expect the highest possible combustion efficiency. So combustion efficiency is if you want to analyze combustion efficiency, there are two ways of measuring. One is the chemical analysis, which is very tedious, very complex. So a very simple way is to analyze this by applying the heat balance between the combustion chamber. By that, we can find out what is the combustion efficiency. So combustion efficiency is actual enthalpy rise divided by the theoretical enthalpy rise. So theoretical enthalpy rise, we already know from the fuel that we are using, we will have a calorific value, and we know the mass flow of fuel, how much we are going to use. So by that, we can get an idea of theoretical enthalpy rise. And actual enthalpy rise, we can measure with the help of thermometer installed at various points in the combustion chamber. So we can get the actual enthalpy rise. If we divide these two values, we'll get the combustion efficiency. Roughly we can get a value which is with some variation of 5 to 10% is acceptable. So requirement of combustion chamber, why do we need it? So complete combustion of fuel must be achieved. That is one of the main important point of the combustion chamber. Total pressure losses must be minimum. Low or nil carbon deposit. This is because of the environment pollution and all. Reliable lignation must accomplished with ease over wide range of atmospheric conditions, particularly for the aviation combustion chamber. This point is very important. Uniform temperature and velocity distribution at turbine inlet. Minimum volume requirement, that is less space. It should occupy less space with minimum weight, particularly lightweight. Higher overall reliability and high durability is expected for the aviation requirement. So this thing I'm not going to cover. These are the typical combustion chamber geometry. So this is the theory portion of it. Let's go directly to the numerical problems. So this is automation. This already got covered. So if we look at this, already most of the theory we have covered. So this is the chemical reaction, C plus O2 is equal to CO2. This is well known. I am not going to cover this. This is a very important chemistry aspect that we should know. This enthalpy of reaction definition also we have covered somewhere. It is the amount of heat release. Directly we'll go to the adiabatic flame temperature. Also we have seen, yeah, dissociation. This is very very important. So dissociation, it is the disintegration of the combustion products at a high temperature by endothermic reaction. So it reduces when it happens. It always reduces the heat release, heat available. So and also it will change the combustion products. Combustion products may carry some unwanted products which are not desirable for the combustion chamber. So some deposits may develop because of the dissociation. Similarly, higher and lower calorific value, if we look at the names, another names of higher heating value, that is also known as higher calorific value, that is also known as gross heating value, GHV, or gross calorific value. Similarly, lower heating value, also known as lower calorific value, or we can say net heating value or net calorific value. These are another name of lower calorific value or higher calorific value terms. So look at this chart, which will give you an idea of between a difference between higher heating value and lower heating value. So let's suppose 1 kilogram of fuel is getting exposed to the 15 kilogram or more air. So if you look at the air fuel ratio, that is 15:1. So stoichiometric air fuel ratio is lies between this region only, 15:1. So 15:1 air fuel ratio we are using. Then combustion will happen. It will release a heat. So when it's releasing heat and my combustion product is having H2O, that case I will be getting 48 megajoule of heat. So this is the maximum possible heat release when combustion product H2O, which is in the form of liquid. So this is a higher heating value. If this is not in a liquid, it is in a vapor. So some of the heat out of this 48 megajoule will be utilized to convert this H2O liquid into the vapor. So now this vapor will carry some of the heat out of this 48 megajoule. So finally, at the end of the combustion, we are getting only 44 megajoule. Why? Because my H2O is in the form of vapor at the end. So when H2O in the combustion product in the form of vapor, I will have a lower heating value, which is lesser than the higher heating value. So if you want to get the maximum possible heat transfer, in that case we should have combustion product H2O should be in the form of liquid alone. So based on that, these two theories, two definitions have been derived. So higher heating value is the amount of heat released during complete combustion of unit quantity of fuel, but the water formed during the combustion is present in the form of liquid in the products of combustion. So if we look at the chemistry of this C8H18, this is in liquid form, this Al is a liquid form, is getting reacted with 12.5 times of O2, which is in gas form, and finally we are getting CO2 and H2O. So H2O here is in liquid form. So such kind of chemical reaction happens. This represents higher heating value. Second case, when H2O also is in the form of gas at the end, this chemical equation directly states that it is a lower heating value. So heat release in second case will be lower than the heat release in the first case. So based on that that formula that I gave you, CnHn plus n plus m by 4O2 is equal to H2O or CO2. We are going to see some numerical application of it. Those are very very important. So just have a look on the first numerical problem. You have to solve along with me. If you are having calculator with you, it will be easy to verify the answers. So let look at this screen. It is saying that a diesel engine is supplied with fuel of average composition of C12H16. The air coefficient, which is nothing but actual air fuel ratio divided by air fuel ratio is stoichiometric. So we can, other way we can say, air coefficient is nothing but the equivalence ratio. During idling condition is 4.5, and during full load running condition it is 1.35. Determine the stoichiometric fuel air ratio. So he is asking you to calculate the stoichiometric fuel air ratio. Also determine the fuel air ratio for each of the above cases and gravimetric analysis of the products of combustion at full load. So basically you are going to solve this into three different parts. One first part is to find out the stoichiometric air fuel ratio. That means you need to write a chemical equation for complete combustion using the standard formula, and from there pre-combustion and post-combustion product you will using those chemical equation you will find out the stoichiometric air fuel ratio. That is the first part of this numerical problem. Second point is asking about the fuel air ratio for each of the cases. For what? For idling separately and for full load condition separately, you need to find out the fuel air ratio. Then I will see the gravimetric analysis, that is the mass percentage analysis of the combustion product. So the standard equation CnHm, the same formula you will have to use. So C12H16 plus 16 times of O2 plus 16 into 3.79, usually we use there 3.78. Here I have written 3.7619, and 2 is equal to 12 CO2, 8 H2O plus N2 again. So now if you look at N2 component here will be exactly equal to the N2 in the combustion product. So pre and post combustion N2 content will be same, and this is CO2 H2O. So from here air fuel ratio stoichiometric will say air means oxidizer. So oxidizer will have N2 and O2 together. So we have to calculate mass of air from here. So O2 molecular weight we have to use for oxygen and nitrogen. So for oxygen is 32. So 16 into 32 plus 16 to 3.76 for N2 molecular weight is 28 divided by this complete term. So carbon means 12 into 12 plus hydrogen is 1 into 16, 16. So from here we will find out the air fuel ratio stoichiometric, which is coming in the range of 13.73. So this is the first part of the problem, to find out the stoichiometric air fuel ratio. Then we'll go for ideal condition. For ideal condition, equivalence ratio is given as 4.5. So air fuel actual can be calculated by using equivalence ratio. So equivalent ratio is the ratio of air fuel actual divided by air fuel stoichiometric. But air fuel stoichiometric we already calculated here. So air fuel actual can be calculated by using equivalence ratio formula as 61.785. So percentage of excess air apart from at complete combustion compared to the complete combustion, how much extra air we are using can be calculated with the help of these two air fuel ratio. So percent of excess air is air actual minus air fuel stoichiometric divided by air fuel stoichiometric into 100. So it is coming around 350%. So compared to the 100%, extra 250 percent extra air we are using in the case of idling condition. So for idling condition, now we need to find out the air fuel ratio. For that we need to write a chemical equation with the 250% extra air. So complete combustion with 350% excess air, or we can say combustion with 450% standard air. So we can write here equation C12H16 plus 16 into this 4.5, that is representing 450% excess air, right? Earlier it was 100%. 100% is 1 basically. This is 450 means 100 plus 350% extra air we are using. Is this already we have identified here? Excess air is 350%. So 350 plus 100 means 450%, and 450% is 4.5. So that 4.5 will be multiplied with the oxygen as well as with nitrogen. So 16 to 4.5 O2 plus 4.5 into 60 point N2. But at the end we don't know how much CO2 will be there, H2O. Now keep in mind, when we are using excess air, that means at the end of the combustion will have some extra air component present in the post combustion product. So that has been added here. You look at this here, O2 we have added in the post combustion product. So that also we don't know how much extra air will be present in the post combustion product. So we have written ACO2, BH2O, DN2, EO2. But this D term already we know that nitrogen is not going to react with anything. So whatever nitrogen is present in pre-combustion product will be available in post-combustion product also. But still we have written DN2. Now we'll equate the similar terms. That means for carbon how much are there, hydrogen how much are there. By that we'll find out these unknown parameters A, B, D, and E. So when we are equating the terms for nitrogen, we'll get E directly to 70.85. If we equate carbon alone, we'll get A value 12. Hydrogen, we'll get 8 value for B. Similarly, oxygen, we'll get this big equation 2A plus B plus 2E is equal to 144. So from here already we know A, B and these values, so we can find out the unknown parameter E for oxygen. So when we substitute all these things together, right, in this first equation here we put we can get the final chemical reaction in this way. This is a final chemical equation with 450%, 450% excess air. So this is given here. Then for full load, again in a similar way, for full load also we can write the chemical equation. So for full load, if you are going air fuel actual is equal to 1.35 times of stoichiometric, that is the air fuel ratio in this case. So what is the percentage excess air that can be calculated here? That is coming around 35% extra air we are using. So now we need to write the chemical equation with 130%, 35%. So with 135% means 1.35. So in oxygen and nitrogen, both the places 1.35 will get multiplied. So here we are multiplying with 1.35. Here also we are multiplying with 1.35. And final products is oxygen will be present. Then again we will do the equation equating similar terms like we used to do in dimensional analysis also. So N2 will get D value, with carbon will get A value, with hydrogen will get B value, with oxygen will get the E value. Now E value is 5.6. So substituting all these values A, B, D, E here, we can write final equation with the 135% of the air. So now we know two equations with 450% and 350% excess air and 35% excess air. We know two equations. Now we can do the gravimetric analysis of post combustion product. Post combustion product. So you look at this. He is asking only post combustion product for full load conditions. So this is the equation representing for full load condition. All right. So in full load condition, CO2 is the 12 times. So 12 into 44, 528 kilograms. Similarly for H2O, we can find out 144 kilogram. Nitrogen, if we calculate everything total together, is coming 3126.396 kilogram. So out of this, how much percentage CO2 is, how much percent H2O is, how much percentage N2 is, can be calculated. So these are the corresponding percentage composition of the reactant and products and the combustion in full load conditions. Similarly, somebody asks you to carry out the gravimetric analysis of idling condition. In that case, you will have to use this chemical equation to carry out the gravimetric analysis. This is for idling condition and this is for full load condition, right? So like that you can solve the numerical problem. So now you look at this numerical problem. This is also very, very important. So it is here 1 kilogram of octane burns in 12 kilogram of air. If there is no free oxygen in the product, that means no oxygen present in the product. So what will be present then? Nitrogen, H2O and CO2 will be present. Calculate the percentage of CO2 in dry flue gas. So in post combustion product, we need to find out what is the percentage of CO2 present. Dry flue gas, we need to find out the percentage of CO2. So for octane, see, this is chemical formula is C8H18. So for complete combustion, we can write the equation in this way: C8H18 12.5O2 and 3.66 into 12.5 N2, and finally we know the constituents. We can write the equation. From here we can find out the fuel ratio stoichiometric as 15.06. Now when saying that find out the CO2 in dry flue gas, that means sufficient oxygen is not present in the combustions. When that happens, in that case what will happen, it will not be a complete combustion. When it's not a complete combustion, combustion product will have carbon monoxide element present in the post combustion product. So if you look at with insufficient oxygen, so we don't know exactly how much oxygen is there, because oxygen is not now sufficient enough to carry out the complete combustion. So we can write the same chemical equations from here as C8H18 8 times of O2 plus 3.76 8 times of N2, and finally when we are writing here, apart from CO2 H2 N2, there will be CO term, that is carbon monoxide will be present, because it's not a complete combustion. So from here we can write the air fuel actual from using these equations. So air is O2 plus N2, so it can be put here, and C8H18 is the fuel, that is equal to 12, because already we know that air fuel actual as 12, which is here, which is given here, 1 kilogram of octane burns in 12 kilogram of air. That means air to fuel ratio is 12:1. That is the actual air fuel ratio which is given here. So we'll utilize that to find out the unknown parameter A. So we got a value. The moment we get the value of A, we can substitute in this equation to write the final form of equation for chemical equilibrium. So we put the value. So value is something like that, but still there are unknown parameters B, D, E, and F that need to be calculated. Now we will equate the terms, like a nitrogen terms. If you equate, you will get the value of small e. Hydrogen will get D value, and carbon will get F plus B, and from oxygen we will get D plus 2B plus F is equal to something. By solving these equations, we can get the unknown parameters B, D, E, and F can be calculated in such a way. Then again putting these all values in the above equation, we'll get the final chemical equation in this way. This is the final chemical equation. Now we need to do the analysis of the post combustion product. So volume of the dry flue gas, we can find out the volume as per the Avogadro hypothesis. Thesis. Volume is directly proportional to the number of moles, right? So look at this equations. Number of moles are given like 2.934 CO2 9. These are all the number of moles. So we add all this together, that will become 45.468 kilomole. So percentage of CO2 we are calculating, that is directly, we can find out 2.93 divided by total into 100. So it is 6.44 percentage. This much percentage of the CO2 is present in dry flue gas. Remember the term dry flue gas, that means insufficient air is present. So if we look at this numerical problem, this is again I think so this is a repeated problem. Determine the gravimetric. This is already we have seen the same numerical problem. So okay, octane is over. Yes, we'll see this problem. This problem is also very good. The petrol used in an engine may be approximated to hexane, that is given as C6H14. The percentage of dry exhaust gases by volume at a particular load and speed of the engine are observed as CO2 is 8.5%, CO is 7.8%, nitrogen is 83.7%. Find the air fuel ratio required for chemically complete combustion, that is air fuel stoichiometric. Estimate the mixture strength, that is actual air fuel ratio in the test. Percentage chemically correct mixture. So two things you need to calculate: stoichiometric air fuel ratio and actual air fuel ratio. These two things we have to calculate from the post combustion product. Composition is given by volume, that is by mole. It is given 8.5, CO2, CO is 7.8. So carbon monoxide, the moment you see, that means insufficient oxygen. So chemical equation for complete combustion of C6H14 we can write in this way. So from this equation we can find out the air fuel stoichiometric. So for complete combustion of 1 kilogram, stoichiometric air fuel ratio is coming around uh, 15.37, right? That is the first answer. Now percentage of carbon in the fuel. So carbon, if you look at carbon in the fuel, that is around 72.86 into 100, that's coming out 83.7 percentage. So I think so. This kind of problem will not be asked in the aerospace propulsion. This is the part of a diesel engine. So diesel is not a part of uh, your syllabus. Yeah, this can be solved. Fuel supplied to petrol engine is assumed to have a chemical composition of C2S16. Calculate the stoichiometric air fuel ratio. Then percentage of the volumetric composition of the product of combustion if 50% extra air is supplied and combustion is complete. Assume air contains 21% of oxygen by volume. So this kind of problems already we have seen. So molecular mass of C2S16, carbon 2 into 1 plus 16 into 1. If you multiply, you will get total 40. So this is a molecular mass of C2S16. So for complete combustion with oxygen, we can write this chemical equation. So stoichiometric air fuel ratio can be calculated using these two components. So this is the air component and this is the fuel component. If we divide these two, we will get the stoichiometric air fuel ratio. So for stoichiometric air fuel ratio with air is asking. So this is with oxygen alone. So for air, nitrogen also you add here 3.76 times of N2 term will come here. So 3.76 times of N2. Then final in combustion product also it will be N2. So now air component is O2 and N2. So together you find out and divided by this will give the stoichiometric air fuel ratio. So that can be calculated. It is coming around 20.6. Now with 50% excess air, that means now we are using one total 1.5. Earlier it was 1 only. Now extra 50% we have added. So now actual air fuel ratio is 1.5. So finally we can write with 1.5 equation here. Then unknown parameters can be calculated in a similar way. Earlier we have done equating the terms. Final equation can be written in this way. Now we can do the volumetric analysis. When we are doing the volumetric analysis, we will talking about the number of moles only. So for CO2, only 2 are present. So total you calculate 2 divided by total into 100. So 4.26% is CO2, H2O is 17.075%, nitrogen is 72.25, oxygen is 6.403%. So this kind of problems will be asked right from the portion of combustion technology. So today I am closing our discussion here. If you are having any doubt, you can ask now. Right, your questions are welcome. So you can ask. Thank you for listening. So any